Laughter marked the commencement of the weekend. Michael, my husband, extended an invitation to his undergraduate best friend, Ethan, to reside at our residence in upstate New York for a few days. They had not seen each other in nearly 5 years, and the reunion was intended to be a celebration of shared memories, late-night drinks, and old quips. I had a vague recollection of Ethan from our wedding. Quiet, pleasant, and slightly enigmatic. He possessed a presence that was not overwhelming, but rather absorbed the space, unassuming, yet impossible to disregard once he was observed. I observed from the front porch as he exited his vehicle and firmly hugged Michael on our gravel driveway, wiping my hands on my apron. His gaze intersected with mine. The same gray-blue hue as that day years ago, but now with a more mature appearance. More intelligent. Sadder? He approached me, calling my name Claire. Remaining as charming as ever. I offered a polite greeting. "Welcome. We are delighted that you were able to attend." However, a voice within me murmured, "This weekend will be distinct." Although our residence was modest in size, it was sufficiently cozy to foster an atmosphere of intimacy among guests. Overly intimate, perhaps. While I was flitting in and out, serving dinner, refilling wine, and feigning not to notice Ethan watching me when Michael's back was turned, Michael and Ethan spent the majority of the first evening drinking on the patio. Our discussions were interrupted by interruptions. Our eyes would meet, and I would feel my pulse quicken, and there would be subtle, prolonged pauses. He did not tease, at least not in the traditional sense. However, Michael lacked the intensity that emanated from his calmness and the manner in which he listened to me. I was in the kitchen that evening, standing in my robe and sipping cool water in the darkness, long after they had retired for the night. The home was still. But then footfall. I turned, and as I did, there he was. Ethan. Sleepily massaging his neck. He was shirtless and wearing low-hanging sweatpants. His voice was raspy. I was unable to fall asleep. I shook my head, suddenly acutely aware of the way my flimsy robe adhered to my body. "Neither do I," he replied, approaching. "There is something about this house that evokes certain emotions in me." I inhaled. He was excessively close. The subsequent day was intolerable. Each glance and touch of his fingertips as we traversed the hallway was electrifying. Michael continued to be blissfully oblivious, engaging in drinking, reminiscing, and laughing. He had confidence in us. That was the most painful. On that evening, I donned a simplistic slip dress. I had not intended for Ethan to be involved in this, or perhaps I had. String lights illuminated the patio, where we engaged in a game of cards. Every time my thighs crossed, Ethan's jaw clenched and his eyes were dark. He sat across from me. Michael exhaled at approximately midnight. "I am exhausted." Finally, you two conclude. Attempt to refrain from engaging in unethical. He kissed my head and vanished. And with that, it was just us. Ethan reclined in his chair and conducted an examination of me. "What is the reason for your expression, Claire?" With a hoarse voice, I replied, "I do not." "You do," he murmured. "I believe you are interested in learning about my potential actions, should you grant me permission." I was unable to exhale. "I am married," I declared. He rose to his feet, circumnavigated the table. He lowered his head until his lips were within an inch of mine. "However, you have not relocated." And I did not. He embraced me, first tenderly and then urgently, just as if he had been longing to do so. I grasped his face, my fingertips becoming entangled in his hair. As he drew me in, his hands slipped down my sides and grasped my waist. Our jaws repeatedly collapsed. In that singular touch, the wine, the guilt, and the tension of years were all undone. We staggered into the living room and then the kitchen, knocking over a chair. He lifted me onto the counter, breathing, "I want to taste you." The granite's coolness caused me to tremble. He kissed my skin with veneration as he slid the straps of my dress off my shoulders. His mouth discovered my breasts, while his hands engaged in exploration, education, and veneration. I was on the brink of collapse when his tongue slid between my thighs. My mouth was open in a silent lament, and my back arched. His name was gasped as I grabbed his hair, thrusting into him. I arrived with great force, trembling, breathless, and undone. He stood, his trousers already dangling. Please direct me to cease. However, I refrained from doing so. Rather, I enticed him to join me. He gradually and profoundly penetrated me. We moved together as if we had done so 100 times in our fantasies. His lips were in contact with my neck, shoulder, and ear. I moaned against his mouth, my thighs encircling him, as he pressed more forcefully and deeply. We converged, his arms encircling me, and the silence between us deafening. My head rested against his chest. The living room rug was illuminated by sunlight. My dress was tangled at my hips and shame clung to me like perfume as I curled up on the settee. Ethan remained mute as he stood at the window, his shirt reapplied. Michael communicated from the upper level. "Coffee," I hastily replied. "I will be arriving," as I adjusted my attire. Ethan gazed at me. "We should converse," he suggested in a low voice. I murmured no. "It is imperative that we forget." However, his gaze communicated what my words could not. "We will never be able to." That afternoon, Ethan departed. Michael expressed his gratitude for his attendance by firmly hugging him. I observed from the doorway, keeping my arms folded to prevent tremors. Ethan glanced back once as he made his way to his vehicle, his eyes brimming with the words we had never spoken aloud. We never discussed that evening again. However, occasionally, when Michael is sleeping beside me, I am reminded of the sensation of being observed. To be caressed in a manner reminiscent of a secret. To be adored as if it were a sin. Additionally, I am curious as to whether Ethan shares this sentiment. The story's just beginning. There are more broken hearts and dark secrets ahead. Hit like, subscribe, and keep exploring with Love Missteps.